So he literally allowed me to feel a level of support I had never felt. I felt like he won't even let me come in between my dreams, and he will do anything it takes to push me to greatness. That's how I felt at that time. And not realizing that what he was doing was establishing his dominance and establishing the control that he felt like he had over me. It didn't feel like that at that time, though. It felt like help, it felt like love. And so, I wasn't bothered by it the first couple of times because I really started writing. And that wasn't a bother to me. And so, even in all of this, I'm not feeling any of the signs of abuse. I'm not seeing any of the signs of abuse. I'm not seeing anything to that effect. But we were growing and we were happy, and he was integrating me in his life, and I was doing things with his kids. For his oldest, I was getting her ready for school in the mornings and dropping her off at school and building a relationship, doing class projects with her, and just doing all of these things. So I just genuinely felt like we had this real authentic relationship and things that we were trying to build. He was 10 years older than me, so a lot of my friends at the time, they were just like in the whole clubbing scene, and because that's what I was doing before, we got together. And he never told me stop being friends with them, but he always had a lot of things to say about them. Never anything good. Like, I remember a few times it was like, oh, she was checking me out while you were here. And in my mind, I'm like, my friend has never tried me to that level like that. But it just basically came in and started just like as questions. Like, he just kind of got me to question myself. Like, you really think she wouldn't do it if for the right person, And for most of y'all that read the Bible, y'all know that's how the enemy brought sin into this world. Not even telling somebody to do it, but just getting them to question. Like, did God really tell y'all not to eat from that tree? Right? And then that's where Eve guessed herself, like, and then that's where sin entered, desire entered. That's where all those things can come in. It comes in as a form of a question. It's not even control. So literally, it was just like, you really don't think she would do it for the right person? Or criticizing like how they dress, because we're going to the club. What you think we wearing? Short skirts, heels, whatever. And then he'd be like, don't you think she comes off, hoish? Don't you think she's going to bring you the wrong attention? Don't you think she's bad for the brand that you're building? It was never telling me to stop being friends with them, but getting me to just question them. And slowly but surely, those questions started just, I'm not even going to, you're right. It's hurting my, being her friend may hurt my brand. This isn't the kind of look that I want for myself, especially because here I am bringing in a lot of success. So I don't want anything to deter that, especially because there were times when I'd go downtown and somebody's like, hey, you're the writer of that blog. And so he was right. And so I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let me just kind of separate myself from these people. And over time, right, I didn't realize that what I was doing is I was putting myself in isolation. And so there were times where we would play fight. I grew up with a lot of brothers. I played basketball. I had a lot of male cousins. So I'm used to play fighting. Play fighting just wasn't anything weird to me. But there were times when we would play fight and I'm like, yo, bro, you're hurting me, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of just laugh it off or shrug it off. And it was like, I didn't mean to hurt you. Stop being sensitive. We always play rough, And so it's like, I'm already now in the habit of kind of lying to my friends and my family, like, when they see a bruise on my arm or something. And they're like, and I was like, oh yeah, I was playing basketball and got injured or, whatever. And so just now here I am already isolating myself and lying about the situation that I'm in because I didn't see a problem with it at the time. So then as things start to progress, our lives are integrating even more. And so by this time, I ended up getting a joint account with him. because we were making money together and doing different things like that. And so we got a joint account, and in having this joint account, we're now completely integrated. Finances are integrated, because my direct deposit goes in there. He knows what a normal check looks like for me. Like, he knows what to expect every 2 weeks, or what my bonuses looked like, because I had always shared all of my accomplishments with him. He knew for the shows that I booked what an average take home for me was. He knew that because I was hosting events, he knew the minimum I was willing to charge to host an event. So he had a clear understanding of my finances. And so I'll never forget, the abuse was now at this point evident. And it was at a point where it was getting out of control. I talked about it in my book, The Chronicles of a Love Addict, A Love Junkie's Journey from Suicidal to Saved. I said, what's crazy about everything is I really want to put you in that memory of the first time that the man I loved, adored, and practically worshipped put his hands on me, but I can't vividly recall it. I know that to some that sounds absurd, but any woman who has ever loved a man more than herself can understand that. After all, he loved me, so that was okay, right? It's okay that he put his hands on me because it was only a reaction to something I did, right? Wrong. Those were just a few of the lies that I basically just told myself through this time. Like I said, the first time it was a real deal slap because we had played around. We would play fight. I didn't realize, he downplayed it, and he was like, that was just a love tap. Like, he slaps me and he was like, man, that's just a love tap. I'm like, I didn't feel no love coming from that love tap. After a while, though, because I had allowed, my mom used to tell me back in the day that if you allow someone to cross a certain line of disrespect, it's hard to redraw that line. So now he felt comfortable love tapping me even when I didn't feel like it was love taps. So it was not unusual for that to become more. It became then just like he would shake me sometimes, and it's like, no, I don't like that. But I still didn't feel like this is domestic violence. When you hear domestic violence, you just think of like, that Eve song that she did years back where it's like, okay, he put her in the hospital and killed her. Like, that's what you think of when you think of domestic violence. That's not what my mind was. It was like, okay, he just shakes me when he gets a little angry. By the time that it got blown out I was in too deep. By the time I realized, like, whoa, this is domestic violence. Whoa, this is the cycle of abuse that they talk about, where you've got that honeymoon phase, and then you've got the escalation, and then you've got the fight, and then it's back to the honeymoon phase again. By the time I realized that, this man legit had fractured my jaw. You know what I mean? And so at that moment in time, our lives were so integral that I was like, okay, I can't do this. I can't stay in this. I'm going to leave this man, and that's it. Well, he took the money out of the joint account. Like, literally went in, knew when payday was, took the money out of the joint account, had everything that I basically had in there, and was like, oh yeah, well, if you just decide to get back in line and start acting like how we were going before, because you're tripping, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't mean to hit you that hard, but, like, what's the big deal? I didn't mean to hit you that hard. Not even apologetic, just like, okay, I didn't mean to hit you that hard. And so it's just one of those things where it went on, and by the time that it got to a point where it was out of control, I was too dependent on this person and this human being. And this person had already established a certain level of dominance over me. And there was a certain part in my mind that I had accepted that dominance, because, like I said, with him taking my keys and my phone and stuff like that, literally I would have days, after it got bad, just days where it's just like I'm confined to my home, and I can't go anywhere. I can't call anyone. Now, he had my money. So it's like, I can't pay my bills. I can't do anything unless I run back and accept this level of abuse. And so sadly, a lot of women fall into that, and they may not fall into it in the way that I fell into it. Sometimes, you know, as women, because I've been in a situation where it's like you've lived with them, this person, and they're the breadwinner, and so there is no way for you to put money to plan an escape route. You know, you've lied to family and friends for so long that nobody's going to believe you when you tell them who this monster is. No one knows that he's a Jekyll and Hyde individual because you've been lying for him for so long. And so it's hard to feel like anybody's going to believe you, and you just feel stuck, and then you start buying into these lies. And, you know, speaking for myself, that's why in a lot of those situations I stayed way past the expiration date, because it's like, where am I going to go? How am I going to get through this? I have no money. I can't put money to the side because this individual knows every single penny and where it's going. I don't have friends that I can turn around and rely on because I've shut them all out. My family doesn't even know that I've been dealing with this abuse. Or, you know, certain things that I did share because it was a common thing in my home anyway, they may not have even looked at it as a sign of abuse because it was normalized. And so that's just a part of my story, as to how someone can kind of get caught up, you know, not having a sense of self-worth and just finding someone who just seems to just fit the mold and be everything you had ever imagined and more. And then you just get stuck, and it's a cycle. And by the time you realize that you're on this cycle and you're on this roller coaster and you're just going around and around this thing, and you're dizzy and you're like, where do I go? Where do I turn? How do I turn this thing around? And you feel stuck. You feel trapped. You think it's too late. You think that there's no way to turn. You're afraid, because oftentimes when men have established that level of dominance over you, especially when abuse is a part of it, you think they're okay with just letting you go. It's a scary number, right? Of how dangerous a man becomes to a woman once she's actually left. I will include it when I go back to edit this video, what the exact statistic is, so you guys can see it, but it's scary. And so as women, we know that. And, you know, statistics shows that a woman tries to leave her abuser 7 times before she's actually able to do it. And it's just because of this cycle and these promises and I'll never do it again. And, after a while, that cycle, the honeymoon and the escalation and all of that eventually goes away, right? You get so used to being on this roller coaster, and once he gets you into this place of control where you question everything, like, I did just blow that out of proportion. He didn't really mean to hit me like that. We play fight all the time. I'm being a sissy right now. Like, I'm tripping. Once a man has you in that kind of mentality, you're literally just that honeymoon phase goes away. And at that point, everything becomes your fault. Well, you know, hey, if you weren't standing so close, the hit wouldn't have seemed so hard, you know? Well, if you wouldn't have provoked me, I wouldn't have hit you. You know, anything could be an excuse at that point. And it goes from having that honeymoon phase, and then now a woman is completely taking blame and seeing the world and herself and everything just completely different. So sharing all of this because I really hope that this helps you to identify with the women that may be in your life, that may be dealing with this, that may have shared it, or that you may see little signs and symptoms, because it's not just going to come like she's just going to completely cut you off over time. She'll become unreliable over time. I'm always making excuses to why she can't hang out. She's just thoroughly involved with this new person. And another thing that can kind of be like a telltale sign, at least for me, is when you become very defensive of that person. Because I remember, you know, one of my friends, when she saw that, she's like, okay, girl, you've been playing basketball for years. How many bruises are you going to get on your arms? What are you doing on, you know, like, you play defense and all that. Yeah, I get it. But really, like, on that placement of your arm, you play all the time, like, you know. And so she was saying all of these things, and in that moment, instead of putting 2 and 2 together, I started getting like defensive, like, dang girl, I said what I said, did you not hear me? You know. And it's like certain things like that. So it's like you're calling things out, and then that person's getting defensive or withdrawing or isolating themselves. We'll get into all of the other things that, you know, can be kind of telltale signs going forward in these upcoming videos. But I just wanted to share because oftentimes the victim doesn't want to open up or doesn't have the courage to, because we think that no one cares. Society has this acceptance of victim blaming. And so, you know, it's already hard enough for the victim. They're dealing with hating, you know, the person that they trusted, and, you know, despising themselves and the decisions that they've made and how they've ended up there. So we about to put a stop to it, okay? Boop. Don't do that over here. Don't come over here with that foolishness. We're trying to get our healing together. And so just as a reminder, it may not be for you, but please share and, you know, tag some friends in it, so that way we can get this going and get more people aware of it. Because like I continuously said, it is so common that you know somebody who is going through it. So share it. And if you've gone through it or you're going through it and you're watching this video, sis, and fellas, because women, we're not the only ones, I just want to, again, remind you that you were created with a purpose, that you're magnificent, that you're lovely, that you're beautiful, that you're handsome if you're a male, that you're capable of exceedingly and abundantly wonderful things in life, and that there are people out there that just desperately love you and want to help you and want to see better for you. You know, your kids, they love you. If you've got little ones in the situation as well, they love you. In the end, sometimes we get caught up in the, well, they'll hate me if I leave their partner. But as a child who kind of grew up in it, I want you to know the part that we despise the most was, you could have saved us from all of this. You could have taken us out of that. So don't believe that lie that, oh, my kids will despise me if I leave. False. There are plenty of organizations that are out there that are just willing to do whatever it takes to get you the help that you need. You are worthy of feeling whole and complete, and every wonderful thing is already inside you, and I can't wait to see it shine. I can't wait to hear about how you shine once you start walking out this healing walk with me. I love you. Jesus loves you. Okay? This I know, for the Bible tells us so. Okay? And I just hope that you have a great day and that you do not tolerate anything less than you deserve today.